Okay, hello everybody. Sorry I can't be there in person to present this, but thank you very much for letting me do this as a video. So recall that what we are trying to do is a massive channel estimation between all of these antennas. Well, what I have been looking at for the last couple of weeks is what is channel estimation. So I created this OFDM signal that is 10 megahertz wide, and I'm able to save that to a file, and then using this device here, a vector signal generator, I can get this to play my OFDM waveform. This cable here is basically my channel, and that goes to the spectrum analyzer, and I'm playing the waveform here. Now what's interesting to note right away is this is the signal that I am sending with a nice flat spectrum, and this is the signal I'm receiving. So right away we can see that there are channel effects here, and those channel effects are basically coming from this cable and the modulator, demodulator that's happening there, but mostly we can pretend that it's coming from this cable. So I'm able to save the data that comes from the spectrum analyzer, and I made a script called calculate EVM. Now EVM stands for error vector magnitude. Now what that is this equation here, and this is a lot like a mean squared error test. It's basically testing what is the difference between the two waveforms, how much do they differ, and it can give it to us in decibels, and the lower the number, the better. So I'm going to hit play on this and let this guy run, and while this is running I'm going to try and show you what it is I'm trying to do. So recall that I'm sending my OFDM waveform over and over and over and over again on the vector signal generator, and I'm going to get multiple copies captured. So the first thing I do is a correlation. I say, well, where does my signal line up? And when I find that, I then take 9 additional copies and I call that my received waveform. So I'm going to get 10 looks at this. And then to do the error vector magnitude, what happens is I first do a CFO correction, some upsampling, some filtering, and then finally the channel estimation. So if you recall, what I get is YW received by the pilots I sent, and we call that the channel. So if this is where the best correlation happened, I'm calling that the best channel, I get that, and then I apply that like equalization to every single channel. And so when I do that, that's what this EVM script here did, and we can now see the values. The lower the better. So here you can see negative 317. That's where I found the best correlation. So that's itself with itself. So that's why it's perfect. That's a perfect number. And then when applied to all the other OFDM symbols, you can see that it sort of decays as we get further away from that best channel. And I believe that's to be expected. And so then I take a look at what's the best that wasn't this super great one. It's negative 54. So I say that was the best using that approach. Then the next EVM approach I took was I said, what if we pretend that every symbol was like a reference symbol to the one that comes next? So I find Y1's channel and apply it to Y2. Then I find Y2's channel and apply it to Y3, and so on. And when I do that, that's this next set of EVM values. You can see it's actually quite consistent. Negative 54 is pretty consistent across here. And I say, what was the best? The best was negative 55. And then the final EVM approach I took is I say, well, let's actually get the channel for every one of these guys and then average it. And then take that channel and apply it to every OFDM symbol. And when I do that, we actually get the best EVM values here. And I say, well, what was the best? And the best was negative 58. So the next thing that I did was I made a whole series of signals. This one's with 25 megahertz. And you can see here the best was negative 52. And if I take a look at the one I did with 50 megahertz, the best was negative 45. And with 75 megahertz, I got negative 42. And with 115 megahertz, negative 34. So one of the mysteries I currently have is, why is it as the OFDM bandwidth goes up, the error vector magnitude goes down? Finally, one of the last things I want to show is, recall that we're actually doing this staggered approach with different antennas where one antenna sends a tone, nothing, nothing, nothing. Another tone, nothing, nothing, nothing. This is a little different than what I just did because I sent a tone on every single subcarrier. So the next thing that I need to look into is called frequency domain interpolation. I also want to look into minimum mean squared estimation and a thing called WOLA, weighted overlap and add. And I have some questions for Professor Harris and Eldon, who so far have been helping me. Thank you very much. That's what I worked on for the last couple of weeks. Thank you.